fell to 3.79. President Obama will speak with Spanish-language channels today, including our sister network, Telemundo. You don't want to miss that, where the topic of immigration is sure to come up. It comes on the same day that John McCain and 3 of his colleagues will tour the Mexican border in Arizona, as a so-called Gang of 8 tries to craft immigration legislation. Let's bring in our Wednesday Hump Day gaggle to talk a little bit about this. Executive Director for the Latino Partnership for Conservative Principles and former Chief of the U.S. Office of Citizenship for President George W. Bush, Alfonso Aguilar, Democratic pollster Margie Omero, and Deputy Editor of the Rothenberg Political Report and contributing writer for Roll Call, Nathan Gonzalez. Welcome all. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Turn over here first. I'm always fascinated that when you do these photo ops on the border, it's always to try and reinforce security. You're going to have, it's a bipartisan group, Flake and McCain, Bennett, and Schumer. And what do you think would ultimately be acceptable for Republicans in terms of the idea of border security? Because that seems to be this sort of idea that we don't have a real definition of yet. Where can we get in a bipartisan bill that would say that the border is truly secure?
Well, that's a very good question, and you're going to get dozens of definitions of what border security is or border control. I think it's basically operational control, and I think we're getting there. Border security has improved dramatically. I don't think at the end border security is going to be the sticking issue in the debate. I think it's going to be, and not even path to citizenship. I think, at least in the discussions of the Gang of 8, it is how to manage the future flow of immigrants, and that is key. Because if you really want to address this fully, comprehensively, we may legalize the undocumented, given them a path to citizenship, but our economy still needs foreign workers from time to time. And if we don't have an adequate mechanism to bring them in, that's a problem. And we're having a problem with the unions, specifically the AFL-CIO, which is really not willing to negotiate. And that's where President Obama could put pressure on the unions to support a workable guest worker program.
How do you respond to that? Do you think that's an issue? I mean, is the issue more this guest worker program that could upset some union folks on the left, or is it border security, which can upset folks on the right? Which shows you where's the compromise going to come? That's your question, my friend.
Or what do you do with the folks who are here currently? And I mean, there are a lot of details to work out. I mean, who would have thought a few years ago, though, that we would have a majority of folks supporting gay marriage, and then we'd have this bipartisan support that's not really controversial right now, where you have Republicans and Democrats coming together on immigration in a way that seems to be bringing the country together. And while there's still a lot of details to work out, ultimately the American people want to see some action. They want to see comprehensive reform. They don't want to deport 12 million people. They want a path for new workers. And so I think there's a lot of incentive for both Democrats and Republicans to try and work these details out.
And you're right. It's fascinating times we live in. The abortion laws are getting stricter. Gay marriage has a ton of support. And now it seems immigration reform has a ton of support. If you said that a few years ago, no one would have believed it. Nathan, I want to go to you. In terms of the reality here, though, from studying the Hill, studying how Washington operates, even if the Senate bipartisan Gang of 8 puts forward a plan come April, there's still a lot of time left to kill it. And I always say, the longer it hangs out there, the more shots it takes. That's why things always seem, anything big on Capitol Hill usually seems to go quickly behind closed doors and move into plain view.
Well, I think what this could come down to is Speaker Boehner's willingness, I guess, to violate the Hastert rule once again, which he's done with the Hurricane Sandy relief funding and Violence Against Women Act, because I do think there are some in the Republican caucus willing to go for a compromise. But is Speaker Boehner willing to do that once again? And I really wonder if the fallout, there's all this talk about the Republican base and threat of primaries. I wonder if there's that fervent threat on the right for some of these members who could vote for something comprehensive. I think economic issues and other things might be more pressing than the immigration issue.
And it seems to me there's a lot of cover from conservatives if they want to take it, in the sense of growing the tax base. There's U.S. Chamber of Commerce and those types of groups are very much in favor of doing this because it helps, big business. So if Republicans want to jump in the deep end, they can do it.
Well, they have the cover right now. I think we saw another seismic change last week when Rand Paul came out and said, you know what, Republicans should deal with immigration constructively. I'm for legalization. He didn't close the door to a path to citizenship. That's going to provide cover to a lot of Tea Party conservatives. So I think the Republicans are opening up to immigration reform. reform to a path to citizenship. But again, the guest worker program is key. And let's, a lot of attention has been paid to what's happening in the Senate, but the House also is in the middle of discussions. And that process is even much more open, and there are good Democrats and good Republicans considering all sorts of ideas. So
And that's where it comes down to Boehner, because the House Judiciary Chairman Goodlatte has said, well, let's take some time on this. Boehner said the deal's practically done in a bipartisan way. I think all eyes will be on the House eventually for this. Margie, in terms of the president's legacy, is it fair to say that this is probably the top priority of the second term?
I think there are a lot of top priorities. I mean, you have this, you have gun laws, you have
debt deal.
You have the debt deal, you have taxes, you have energy. I mean, there's a whole variety of things that I think are key to the president's legacy, and this is one. And this is certainly one, as I said, where Republicans seem willing to come to the table.
He's got to get this done. I mean, for the history books, to a degree, this is something they want. I mean, because for Democratic politics to be able to say we had the White House when immigration reform went through is quite significant.
Right. I think, and this is, as Margie said, there are multiple priorities. I mean, health care from the first term is probably going to, depending on ultimately what history says about it, will be a big defining part of his legacy. And now immigration, I think they want to get it done along with tax fairness and all these other issues.
Our panel will be sticking around. Our gaggle panel, that's it. But next, the effort to get America's military veterans gainfully employed. We're going to talk about that with Richard Louie. But first, the White House soup of the day.